All right. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and anyone who's watching it on YouTube. Today, we're going to continue our web talk, Keep Calm, Don't Go Nuts, part 2. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed last week's conversation with our friend. Man, his name is skipping my thinking now. But today, we have Elaine with us. Elaine is our counselor of Every Nation Church Malaysia. She helps our church with any counseling needs. And hi, Elaine, how are you doing?
Hi, Pastor. I'm okay. So far, keeping busy with the lines coming in to support those who are in need at this moment in the area of counseling and also mental health. Yeah.
Okay. So would you say at this time you are more busy or less busy than, let's say, usually?
Well, it's almost the same, but it's just that the needs nowadays is very much on the crisis mode.
I
When
see.
people come in, call, it's more to support them here and now regarding to how to cope with the crisis now. Yeah, so of course, on top of that, I do still see clients who are also going through the series of counseling with me. But of course, the huge bulk of the work is pretty much on the crisis support.
Wow. So that means during this season, a lot of them are in. Can you explain what crisis is a little bit?
Yeah.
What does that
Crisis
mean?
is basically is a very a response, a critical response to a massive situation like this COVID situation. Yeah, it could be a disaster, but right now it can be in the form of disaster whereby people are isolated. And that's where a lot of input from the media, the negative input that clouding the mind, and also there's a lot of fear and anxiety that is facing the future, and there's a lot of feelings of insecurity there. So in this moment, that's where the current response is basically a very critical moment to some certain extent. So it is considered a crisis. Yeah.
Okay, great. Just before I let you share a little bit on how we can tackle this season. I just want to share with everybody um, what what Irene is. Irene is the counseling arm of Every Nation Church Malaysia. And just give me a moment. I'm just going to share that. Here we go. There. So for everybody out there, if you know someone who needs counseling, and this is the contact number of Elaine, our guest speaker today, and you can call her for both phone and online counseling available, or email her at this time. And the other one that you can get in touch with, of course, are our pastors at Every Nation Church Malaysia. Whether you are a campus, you can contact me, a campus student. There are teens, we have kids pastor, we have families, we have our senior pastor. So if maybe you don't know whether you need counseling or not, or maybe you just need someone to talk through this season, here are some contacts of some of our leaders, and they can journey with you. So those are a couple of our options at this time. And thank you so much, Elaine, for joining us. And can I just ask you a couple of things before you start again? Why do people come to you? What causes a person to go to a counselor typically?
Mm. Yeah, the concept of counseling is very much a stigma to a lot of people because they will start to think that I am the problem. Yeah, and that's where people become to a point that they cannot function. Not to say that physically cannot function, but emotionally and cognitively they cannot function. It could be due to the past. It could be due to a certain exposure to certain very critical moment of their life, and then that gave them a very entrapped situation, that they could not move on. So that's where they usually seek counsel, and want to hope to find certain blind spots in their lives to overcome certain situations. And ultimately counseling actually is to empower the person to overcome the whole situations that is entrapping the person. So it's to find an area of blind spots, at the same time to overcome it, and to be able to know myself better through the course of counseling.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay, and yeah, thank you so much for that. And yeah, why don't I just let you take it away, and then what will happen, everybody who's watching, what will happen is Elaine's going to share, and during her any time of this YouTube live, if you have any questions, you can just write it in the comment section, and then at the end of her presentation, we will answer some of those questions. Okay, so Elaine, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so hi guys, everyone out there who is tuning in. So I would like to share today's session. Wait, okay. All right, so what I've come to this session while I was preparing and praying is that a lot got to do with taking care of our mental health well-being. We are in this situation where we are constrained and confined to our basic needs. So when our basic needs is being challenged at this moment, definitely our mental well-being is also being very challenged at this moment. So how do we stay in focus of to overcome this wherever we are, whether we are at campus, whether we are a family, whether we are at work. So mental health is basically is very important. It's also important as how we take care of our body, our physical health. We also need to take care of our mental health well-being. So this is the content that I'm going to share with all of you today. First of all, yes, it is a very stressful situation, COVID-19 and stress, and we need to recognize what are the psychosocial and behavioral impact of this pandemic. Because when we talk about mental health, we talk about our thoughts, our feelings, our behavior. It's all interconnected. So these are the impact of from COVID-19 and how does it affect us as a person. Well, while we know what are the stresses that stem up from this situation, is that the next question is to ask myself, how can I stay mentally healthy at this moment? Maybe if you can, I perhaps if there's a comment section, you can actually just drop by a word or two of how are you feeling right now? How do you maintain your mental health at this moment? If you want to, you can actually drop a few of your comments out there. How are you taking care of yourself at this moment, right? So the third section that I will talk about is that not only we stay healthy and maintain our mental health, we also want to extend out how to help those who are around us, especially when my friends and family members are anxious at this moment. So what do I do about it? How can I recognize the signs and then where to go about it? So basically today is to help us to understand how is this affecting us, and don't just stay there as affecting us, and how are we going to overcome this and stay a healthy mental health well-being. At the same time, we can do something about it and not just stay at where we are. Okay, all right. So let us recognize some of this impact or the stresses that is causing us at this moment. It is an epidemic of anxiety and fear. So it is very real that at this moment there is also a lot of fear of being infected and a lot of fear of dying, because it is attacking our lives. And no doubt that there are people who are dying, and also there are people who have also passed on due to the virus. So it's very scary. And these are the common response and feelings that it is valid, because it is a threat to our life being. And when people are living in this constant anxiety and fear, we are always on this survival mode. When we are on this survival mode, the tendency of people behavior change, where there is hoarding and trying to keep us alive. Yeah. So with this epidemic of anxiety and fear, the difference between anxiety and fear is that when we are on anxiety, is that it is very subjective. We are locked down by our insecurities, and this definitely drive us as being anxious. Yeah, there is no specific to that anxiety, but when it comes to fear, it is very specific. It nails down to what are we afraid of. And when we are living in a very fearful situation, we are always on the fight or flight mode. We want to attack, or we want to protect ourselves. So this is where we are right now, and most of us are also dealing with this. Secondly, during this time, there's a loss of identity, whereby many have loss of income, and many of, especially when it comes to students, there's interruption in education. And when it comes to interruption in the normal routine, we have loss of sense of our productivity. So sometimes we begin to feel there's so much of not knowing who am I right now because of this situation. Yeah, one thing is that maybe I don't go to college or university as how I used to be in this almost coming to the third week or to the fourth week already. So we are kind of very lost in this situation. Yeah. So when it comes to losing our sense of identity, we then will be very insecure of ourselves, and that's where we caught into the epidemic of anxiety and fear. Yeah. Thirdly, there is psychological distress. Yeah, when there is feeling of helplessness and hopelessness, whereby when a future is uncertain, we no longer will live like how we used to live after this. And also, there's a sense of meaningless. When there's helplessness, hopelessness, and meaningless, we are often living in a psychological distress mode, and whereby people tend to get into depression easily. Yeah, and when we talk about there's death in the community, or maybe there are people in a family member who have lost their lives, there's also a collective grief there. Yeah, grief is something that is a very long-term condition that we have to overcome it, but it's not easy. But when it comes to an epidemic or a pandemic of situation like this, when it is involved a community of collective grief, there's a lot of distress that is going on in the community. Yeah, and next is the behavioral change, where, as I said, there's an impact to our normal daily routine, our functioning. When there's an impact to our daily routine, our behavior change, because the mind has changed, and therefore it affects how we feel. That mostly negative feeling, and then it then challenge us. Our behavior we tend to change as well. So therefore, there is come to a social isolation, where feeling of loneliness, low self-esteem, and when we come to a social isolation, that you don't tend to meet people or be connected with people, we tend not to take care of our personal hygiene. There's poor hygiene, there's poor diet and nutrition. We don't eat as much, and because now food is something that is also very scarce to some certain extent. People have lost their job, so they're no longer able to consume healthy food as they used to be. And then because of all this negative impact, they tend to lose their interest in life, and no longer have this kind of a sense of motivation to go on. Yeah, and finally, this research that shows that during this pandemic, there's increase in the use of nicotine, that means cigarette smoking, and alcohol and drug use, because people tend to go into addiction more often nowadays. Yeah, that is because the increase of stress. So this is the whole overview of how COVID and stress causes to in our well-being. So the next question, as I mentioned, is that how can I stay healthy? Yeah, so this is a very good diagram for us to chart ourselves. whereby, in the first circle is that who do I want to be during this COVID-19, and then it then goes to the next circle is the fear zone. Yeah, so if we are locked in this fear zone, you start to behave in this behavioral cycle. I grab food, I grab toilet paper, and certain things I hoard. Like I say, when you're driven and anxiety, when you're driven by anxiety and insecurity and fear, you tend to spread the emotions of related to fear and anger. This is where you start to complain frequently. So when you start to reflect upon yourself and do some self-reflection now, which zone are you at? Am I at the fear zone where I tend to be more anxious? I tend to complain in a situation where I am? Or are we moving out from this fear zone to a learning zone, whereby I become to be more aware of the situation and me in this situation? I tend to stop, be more compulsively in my buying, in my hoarding, and start to think about others and not for myself. And it's just to identify my emotions at the moment, because when I'm living in the fear zone, I cannot think of other thing but to be fearful. Yeah, so when I step out to this fears from this fear zone to the learning zone, I begin to be more aware. I begin to be more able to recognize myself and others, and also to be able to know where am I being positioned at. Yeah, so you start to question yourself, am I at the learning zone? Or am I beginning, this is the third week already, I have overcome certain area. Maybe I've started to step out from my learning zone a little bit more to the growth zone, whereby I begin to make the goodness out of this situation. Yeah, I recognize my talents, and then what am I going to do with this talent of mine? Yeah, and then the most important is that I live in the present, yeah, in the present moment, and also focus on the future. Yes, the future is bleak. Some of us will be like questioning, what is this going to happen in the future? But then when I'm in this growth zone, again, I will look at this as a potential for my future. Where is this? How am I going to be an overcomer in this situation, and to be appreciative, and also to spread this positivism and overcoming attitude to others. Yeah, so we are more adaptive in this growth zone. All right, so maybe you can take some time to really plot yourself in what area you are at this moment. All right. Okay, so while you're trying to look through that and try to understand that, here are some of the ways to help us cope. I'm sure you have seen in social media trying to help each other to overcome this kita jaga kita, the hashtag, and also to be able to love our neighbors, and the initiative that our church is doing is basically to base is part of the ways to cope with it. But at our personal level, what are the ways? Number one, it's very important to devise your own routine and framework. All right. So imagine our lives right now, have been coming to the third week or more into the same old routine. Some of us cannot recognize whether today is a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever day it is. And some of us, our time may be a bit out. We no longer sleep in the nighttime. We sleep in the daytime, and nighttime we are like an owl. So that's the danger there. All right. So it's good to every time wake up to have this framework of mind. What is my routine going to be? Even though it's going to be in the same old place, even though we are locked in the same room. Yeah. To have this mental picture or framework of what my life today going to be, it's very helpful. All right. Secondly, it's very important to limit our consumption of news or information that may increase or exacerbate your feelings of anxiety. If let's say you spend a lot of time on social media or reading materials that seemingly generate a lot of fear of your future, stop. It's time to stop. Or it's time to put a stop to sharing those information. Okay. Well, it's also time to fast and pray. And fast and pray not only on food, fast or pray on information or social media. It does help. Okay, it's so that your feeling of anxiety will not be built up and built up over time. All right. So thirdly, sufficient sleep doesn't mean that you sleep whole day and neglecting everything. If let's say you're sleeping whole day and you're demotivated, there is a danger that there's a red flag there. Sufficient sleep meaning to say that each of us will need at least 7-8 hours of sleep. All right. So getting in time to sleep and in time to wake up is very important. So don't sleep later than 12 o'clock at this moment, but fix it at least at 10:30. If let's say you are doing your assignment and whatnot, I know that during campus time you tend to extend over, but again, sufficient sleep helps our mental functioning very on a positive note. Yeah, so maintain a healthy diet. I know there a lot of people are living on Maggie mee at this moment. I wouldn't recommend that. It's good to have food to keep us going, but again, a healthy diet doesn't mean that you need to eat a lot. Yeah, a balanced diet and couple with exercise. And there's no way that we can get enough of sunlight nowadays, but then there's a lot of indoor exercise that we can adopt in our lifestyle, and they can work as equally good as doing an outdoor exercise at this moment lah. All right. So last, it's also good to learn new skills when we are caught in this situation where, hey, we are so helpless and so hopeless or helpless, hopeless or meaningless. Maybe pick up new skills or new interests. Yeah, if you don't used to cook, now maybe it's a good time to cook. Or maybe if you're not used to you're not musically inclined, that you wanted to learn a new instrument, well, you can pick up certain skills at this moment or brush up your skills at this moment. All right, so these are some ways to cope, and here is a little diagram of how to manage my anxiety. So of course I've covered certain area, and there are some good things that we can take from this diagram is that um, to meditate. Yeah, I know meditate doesn't mean that it is the form of yoga or meditation, but to meditate about God's word. And one thing that comes with meditation is basically to do breathing exercise. Breathing exercise actually helps to cope with our anxiety. All right, so why would you be thinking about, hey, we breathe all the time, what is there about breathing exercise that is so important? So when in my work, I deal a lot with clients who are having anxiety issues. So one of the ways that help our client go through the anxiety is actually breathing. Yeah, so I know it's very how to say, it is effortless to breathe for us, but when it comes to breathing exercise, it's also similar to how we exercise our physical body. Doing breathing actually helps us to regulate our body rhythm. So when our body rhythm is regulated, it helps us to think properly and helps us to feel good, and to have this sense of that kind of relief moment. Okay, so if you want to know more about breathing, you actually can YouTube it and spend time in a relaxed mode, in a relaxed time to breathe in. Take a deep breath, hold it as long as you can. The most is maybe 5 seconds, and then you release it. Yeah, hold it and release it. So if you do that about 10 minutes every day, you will feel a lot better. All right. Okay, so that is on meditation on God's word, and also take time to do breathing exercise. All right. Now, there's another way. We call it the circle of control versus the circle of concern, basically the locus of control. There are a lot of things that is beyond what I can control. And how do we respond to it? Okay, so this little diagram is that you can see that there is a reactive versus the proactive. In the blue circle is where the circle of concern is. Yeah, when we are reactive, sorry, the brown circle is a circle of concern. The blue circle is a circle of control. All right. So when we are in a reactive mode, our circle of concern become bigger and bigger and bigger. What are these circle of concern? Meaning to say that these are things that we cannot control. What other people say of me? What other people think of me? All right. The traffic or whatever, the weather, it's all these are what we cannot control. Okay, so if we keep on thinking of all this in our mind, our circle of control becomes smaller and our circle of concern become bigger. All right, so when we take time to be more proactive, is that to focus on what we can control, which is ourselves. What I say, what I eat, what I do is where I can control, and you can see that the circle of concern becoming smaller and smaller, and you are in control. All right, so this is where we think of what we can control versus what we cannot control. So the pandemic is what we cannot control. But what we can control is ourselves. What I can eat, what I can do in my day, how can I cope with this is what I can control within my means, right? Finally, so these are some of the examples in my control. What I say, what I do, my opinions, it's in my control. And what is out of that circle is what out of my control, okay? And I have my own boundaries. All right. Okay. So basically, this come to a conclusion is that focus on what I can control within myself and not what I cannot control. Okay. So next, very quickly, how can I help? Yeah, knowing that, hey, am I in the growth zone? Am I still in the fear zone? Okay, so there are a lot of things to work on there. But hey, if let's say I take myself out from that fear, I take myself out to the learning zone, to a growth zone, and then now be aware of the people around me. How can I help? My family and friends are anxious right now. You see, they are this statistics that shows that 50 to 25% of Malaysians actually will have psychological and behavioral symptoms that require psychosocial support. And most of them actually at this moment where I call it the crisis moment do not need treatment from psychiatrists or from any other mental health specialist like me. Yeah, so wherever you are seated right here, you are actually a helper. Yeah, you are actually can be actually in a form of help to others. Remember that 95 to 98% at this moment do not need treatment. They need you. They need so all you need is to have some learning experience of helping skills at this moment to provide the social support needed. All right. Okay. So who might require this help? Okay, so you may want to think about the people around you. It's time to take up your phone and scroll and look at your contacts and maybe look at your past WhatsApp messages of your maybe your coursemate or your whoever that you come in contact with, yeah, and to connect with them, to ask them, hey, as simple as how are you in this situation, yeah. So who might need help at this moment? Those who are reporting very restless, sleeplessness, very panic. So if your friends are telling you, I cannot sleep, if your friends are telling you, I'm driven by a lot of nightmares and a lot of traumatic events, and there are a lot of, I receive a lot of inquiry nowadays that their housemates hiding in a room and crying, yeah, and perhaps they do not know what is happening. When I ask them how often they cry, maybe once a week or maybe once twice in a day. So this is some signs that shows that maybe the housemate is not doing well, is not coping well. And for those who are seen to remain isolated, so if you are living on campus or wherever you are, you see that there are some friends who do not step out of the room very often. Maybe it's time to just give them a tinkle, and bust them, and they seem withdrawn most of the time, and they show no interest as how they used to be. All right, and also maybe there are certain irritation, outbursts of weeping and crying. Like I've said, nowadays we pick up calls, a lot of them discover that they cry a lot more, and they seems to show a lot of reluctance to communicate. So these are the people, they may require a certain form of help, and we call it the red flags lah. All right, and the people who have significant losses. Okay, maybe there are some family members who have lost, and they couldn't express out their grief. And also lastly, people who appear extremely distressed. So these are people who might require help, and it's time for you to check on them and to see how are they doing. All right, so here are some guidelines. Number one, when you are in contact with people, when you are wanting to be in contact with people at this moment, speak calmly, right? A very calm tone, be patient and responsive at the moment, response to their emotion needs, and also be sensitive to them. Okay, so if you speak very fast and in a very fast, how are you? What are you doing? You know, the kind of situation, tendency of be more increasing the anxiety even more. All right, so be prepared to listen. If let's say you're coming out of this growth zone to help people, please prepare to be a listener. All right, when you listen, you focus understanding of what the person is telling you and how you can be of help. Yeah, you acknowledge the positive features of what the person has done, meaning to say that if the person is crying and trying to tell you how difficult it is, be sensitive to the moment that this person actually overcomes certain situation. Okay, so highlight on that, and then you want to help the person to draw strength from himself or herself, that he or she able to overcome certain point of in their life. Yeah, and also you can also clarify with the person if you're not sure. If you're not sure of how to go about it, how to help this person, maybe you can clarify. Sorry, can I clarify with you whether is this what you mean? Is this what you want at this moment? Always clarify. Give information that is accurate. If you don't know, if you don't know, you offer to find out what is it. Okay, so there are some people who want to ask you, maybe some of your friends, like, hey, do you think this MCO will be extended again? What kind of answer will you give? Maybe yes, law, huh? Yeah, looks like it, since we are already in this situation and the cases are increasing. Well, this information may not be accurate, all right? So again, if situation like this and people tend to be more anxious toward it, I don't know, okay? Let me find out. Or maybe wait for the information, the rightful information, then only we'll know, okay? So it's not for me to answer that, all right? So what do not need to say? See, these are the points that we try not to say, okay? If let's say you are a listener, you're trying to help someone, okay? These are the words that's no less. For example, oh, you are so lucky lah, if not, it could be worse. Yeah, and it's also a big no-no if you want to relate to certain situations, like, others have suffered more than you. Your situation is a very minor situation only. All right, okay. So and another thing is that if let's say the person is crying, the least thing to tell the person, don't cry, stop crying, don't worry. It will not do any good if you continue to cry. Yeah, but the person is still crying. Yeah, so and we don't usually encourage you to say, I know how you feel. Yeah, we counselors don't say that, because we counselors do not know how the person is feeling actually. We don't understand. Yeah, I say we don't want to say that, oh, I understand how you feel. Yeah, but actually we don't. Okay. Yeah, the other way, the other words to not say is everything will be fine lah. Don't worry, we will overcome this one. Yeah, you just sleep lah. After you sleep, you wake up, you'll be okay already. Yeah. So these are things we don't say. All right. Oh, this is very important. You do not say that you must have done something to trigger this. Okay, this is a big no. Do not put the blame to the person. Okay, and finally, you're not the only one going through this. You know, I also going through this. You see, I'm not crying. So, yeah, again, big no to this. All right. And finally, do not be judgmental. Okay, whatever you are helping a person or being a listener of trying to find out how a person is doing, uh, don't put that judgment to that person. Yeah, don't put a conclusion to the person that, oh, because this person used to be bad to me, no wonder lah, now is this it's a payback time. Yeah, or do not argue with the person. All right. Finally, do not scold or lecture. If let's say the person is living in a very isolated, self-isolation, do not scold the person. I tell you already, you have to eat like that, you have to do like that. No, it's not the right time to lecture the person. And finally, do not try to fix the problem. We are not a problem solver. Yeah, even I myself, we are counselors. We are not fixing the problem of the person. Yeah, we are just being there to understand the issue, understand and to stay with the person in this moment. All right. So finally, who may require specialist care, okay, in your encounter with your friends, yeah, your friends may have told you that he or she may have seen a psychiatrist. Nowadays seeing a psychiatrist is very common. Yeah, taking psychotropic medication, antipsychotic drugs is very common. Anti-anxiety medication is also very common nowadays. Oh yeah, so people previously known cases of mental disorders, depression, anxiety, maybe panic, all this, to some certain extent, these people may require certain attention at this moment. Those with significant psychological symptoms, maybe you do not know them at this moment, or maybe your family members, yeah, your siblings, all right, or your parents, those who are very dysfunctional. There are certain time that in our lives, maybe we took off time from study, we took off time from work to stay at home because of we couldn't cope. Yeah, there are people who couldn't work, so they have to stay at home. There are people who couldn't continue their studies, so they have to stay at home. Maybe it's time to think about these people. If you know them, give them a call. All right. And finally, those who have suicidal ideation. Yeah, it's very common in campus nowadays. Suicidal attempt or ideation is one thing that is quite alarming in this situation. So maybe it's also time to think about those who have told you about their attempt, about their behavior. All right. And finally, those with history of physical violence. Violence in the family is also one of the big area because this causes trauma. So when people are with the trauma, and now with the psychological distress that they're facing right now, the recurrent of trauma experiences may come back. All right. And finally, if we are not expecting that you are the expert, but we are just a helper at this moment, we can channel the help. All right, counseling available during this time. Non-profit organization, as what Pastor Balan has mentioned, Irony Counseling Service. This number will lead to me, and then I will take in the call and try to understand the need, the help that is needed, and then we channel out the either I will take in the case, I will arrange the counseling session with the person, or I will channel to other counselors that is also part of this Irony Counseling Service. And secondly, Agape Counseling Center Malaysia. This is with multiple, I think with Mandarin as well. So you can call this number and also talk to the counselors. And finally, FGF Family Life, at the moment, their inquiry is through email. All right. So some people are not comfortable to call or to, just be in contact with person, right? Maybe they want to send an email. Yeah. So these are the three that I know of at the moment. Of course, there are more, but they may be paid services. Yeah. All right. So, well, I guess to end is that would like to give a conclusion that first of all is to recognize ourselves at this moment. Where is our mental state at this moment? How can I take care of myself in this moment? Recognizing what zone is very important. Yeah, whether do I actually need help or not? And if I'm in this zone that I can offer help to others, be sensitive to others' needs at this moment. And this is in the area of mental health. Yeah. All right. So would like to thank you for this time. If let's say you have any questions that you want to ask me, feel free to drop your comment. Yeah. So I'll pass this time to Pastor Balan. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Elaine. Thank you for sharing with us. Can I ask you some questions about your presentation just now?
Sure.
Now you're talking about the pattern of living has changed now, and so on and so forth, and some patterns are not as healthy as others. So when I talk with some students and I ask them, so what's your daily pattern life, and exactly what you said, they're awake at night, and then the whole day they sleep. But to the student, it's okay. They feel like it's okay, well, whatever, So
Yeah.
I guess my question is, how do we help someone who maybe they feel they're okay, but maybe from the outside, you can see that that's not healthy and that's going to lead to other problems in the future or something like that. So how do I help someone who's maybe not so self-aware of what they're going through?
Yeah, basically at this stage, because you're talking about for those who are not at the professional level of understanding or extending help, at the level of maybe in the campus, it's basically it's just to journey with the person. Yeah, and through that, we need to build the rapport. Even as counselors, when we see our clients, in the first session, we cannot do anything first, because we need to build the rapport. We need to establish that trust with the person first, or for me is with the client. So if there is a trust based on, and then the next level is basically that's where more things will come out. Yeah, so that's why counseling actually work through a series of across time, across space, and also it's a very long process. It's a long journey. So for your question is that whether we are at the personal level, yeah, we have identified certain areas, maybe seemingly alarming, yeah, but it has to be built on trust first with the person. And then with the knowledge that we have is that we don't diagnose the person now, definitely, yeah. We then will try to help the person to think that by doing so, by thinking so, by feeling so, it doesn't help, yeah. So then that's where it come in. Perhaps maybe you want to try this way, or maybe you want to think like that, or you in the spiritual matter, that's where you bring the person back to God and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Thanks. So build relationship with the person, build the trust. Is what you're saying. The self-isolation thing, I think that one is one of the more common ones. It's just like, the student hides in the room, and possibly on the device the whole day.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, in that case, right? You're talking to the student, and they feel like it's okay to live like that. Is there a way to help them out of that self-isolation mode. Yeah, just through a journey again.
Yeah, because sometimes we need to understand the underlying factor of the behavior. Because when we talk about self-isolation, whether it is during this COVID situation or not COVID situation, the indulgement in the behavior of that self-isolation, or maybe it's a gadget, or maybe it's a game, is a form of addiction, yeah, that draw the person to be more in that situation. Because first of all, we have to understand that it is a control. It's about control. So we then have to understand why the person become in that situation is because the person perhaps, wanting to be in control of him or herself, and that is where they find that control is. Yeah, so it's a form of addictive behavior, and the same way because it is very helpless in the real, coming out from to the real world, facing the real world is very helpless. Yeah, so when I stay in isolation or when I go into gadgets or into gaming, it's a form of addiction. Is where what is the core problem of the person? The relationship, is it, got to do with the relationship of the person with the family member, yeah, or with the social aspect?
Okay,
Mhm.
I see. So they are different. So finding out, yeah, why they isolate themselves.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
you mentioned the circle of control versus circle of concern. I like that. Um, and can you give some examples? So because we're all on our devices, we're on WhatsApp, we're on these groups, and then the students, they would meet in their live groups and the breakup, they have the breakout rooms. Maybe give us, just elaborate a little bit more on how do I know if a person is like he's at the circle of concern, spending too much time on that. What kind of things is this person saying? What kind of things is this person, yeah, so that then I can know, oh wait, this person is focusing too much on things they cannot control. Yeah.
Yeah, a very typical scenario is that the person tend to focus on what they cannot. That means how would people think about me? How would people say about me? It's all about, what people would then think about me, which I cannot control. Yeah, so the common behavior is that these people would tend to be very low self-esteem. Yeah, it's like there's very low confidence. When a person become this in this low confidence state, this person tends to be like, I cannot. Yeah, I can't do this. It's because if I do this, what will this person think about me? Yeah, so usually this will be a situation where the person is over driven by a lot of self-defeating thoughts, as in like if you give the person a role to play, this person will tend to be more, oh, I can't do this. Maybe somebody else will be better than I am. And then it's got to do with also whether, this person often feel very anxious, anxiety about the future. I don't know lah. Tomorrow what will happen tomorrow? Tomorrow will be not enough food. Tomorrow will be a disaster. I can't live my life anymore. The kind of situation. So people
Okay.
tend to be more negative, yeah, pessimistic.
Okay. Okay. Is there a opposite end to that? Like, you know, like, so some of the students that I engage with, it's like, uh, maybe it's like, oh, it's okay, nothing bad will happen. I mean, they're positive, but maybe not realistic, I guess. I don't know if that's the word for it, but you know, it's just like I don't care. Maybe it's the right term.
Yeah, yeah. We have to understand the life stage of the person, especially when you talk about campus. Usually, based on experience, is that the students nowadays are lack of a lot of lack of not the kind of exposure that I mean, lack of exposure to the reality of life, you know, because there are some students who actually go through the series of very protected environment. Uh, yeah, so their exposure it's very limited and very constrained. For example, there are a lot of students that actually went through homeschool program. Yeah, the exposure is limited to some extent. Yeah, and their social interaction is also limited in some extent. For example, yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. Yeah, I'm just giving you an example. So the exposure is very limited to young people nowadays. Yeah, they are not aware of the needs out there. They're more focused on themselves. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why the Tita Upper attitude is rare in such a way that, you know, where they come from a very protected environment, yeah, they will become very helpless.
Hmm.
So
How do
when they become helpless, is that the attitude is then, well, apa pun boleh lah. Yeah.
and how how do we help a person through that side of it, you know, to help them see that maybe maybe it's not just about you, it's about your neighbor, your friend, or help somebody else, something like that. How do we journey, how do we start that conversation?
Basically it's self-awareness. Yeah. Self-awareness is very important. That's why in the process of counseling, it's also the process of self-awareness, being aware of myself, to know myself, to know who am I actually, my personality, the way I think, my feelings, and also the way I do, why I do the way I do, why I act the way I do. Yeah. So basically, it's to help the person to go through this whole situation of awareness, a sense of when the awareness is increased, yeah, the person is able to see themselves in the situation. Hey, oh, this is actually who am I, and how I actually overcome certain challenges in my life. So it's very reflective as well. Yeah, in order to help young people or people, you know, going through, is to help them to be reflective of themselves. It's part of the journey of self-reflection.
Okay. Thanks. I'm just going to ask some questions that came in our comments. Okay. So I think you've already answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway. How can I help a friend who doesn't want to share? Maybe can some suggest some practical psychology first aid. So maybe this person has a friend and it's obvious the person is in trouble, but they don't want to open up to you. What do we do?
Yeah. Again, the next question that I will ask is that what would the person regard you as? Are you a close friend? Are you a acquaintance? So who are you to this person? Yeah, it's very important. If let's say you are a close friend to this person and this person seemingly not opening up, there is a gap there. Why is this person not opening up where you are a close friend? Okay, what is the relationship based on? Is there trust there, or is that not? Or is this person more very inward person? Yeah. So if it's not talking out, you can see from signs of this person. Yeah. Again, it goes back to the fundamental of building the trust with this person first. Yeah. So maybe the person has got a lot of things going on in his life or her life. Yeah.
So build trust with the person. Um, okay, I have another question. Do we leave the person on their own if they prefer to be on their own space and not connecting with anyone? So, some people are, maybe we would label them as introverts, and then, yeah, do we just like, okay, fine, I'll give you your space. Is that a...
Space is very important to some extent because some people take time to, work through things in life. Yeah, and again, when you give people space, you also allow the person to know that you are there for them. Okay, so again, it goes back to the relationship that is built on. At the same time, yes, we allow that space for that person, but when you allow the space, you let the person know that this is my concern that I see in you, but I give you that space if you like that, but I'm here for you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, I see the problem, the person has a problem, and then because I know the person that she needs space, so I'm just like, okay, I'm giving it, but we have to communicate that, hey, I see you have this issue, but I know you probably want your space now, but I just want you to know. So, okay, that's good. So just not just giving the person space, but informing the person that you are giving them space and that you are there for them, right?
Yeah.
It's not just,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Maybe a couple of questions. And one is, just now you talked about, do not say, I know how you feel, or do not say this or that, and don't be judgmental. Well, what's my goal there? I mean, what am I presenting myself as, and what am I trying to achieve with the person that I'm spending time with? When I don't judge them, when I do active listening, what happens? What am I aiming for?
Well, it goes back to the intention of what you're doing. Let's say you are willing to to be sensitive to people's needs, yeah, perhaps emotional needs lah. In this context, is that are you gonna be ready to be a listener? Because there are people out there who wants to be heard. Yeah, so maybe you can clarify also at the same time that whether is this person actually looking for help or not. Yeah, yeah, if the person is not looking for help, why? Yeah, yeah, but in a way sometimes through conversation actually you'll be able to find out actually the person wanting help or not. Yeah, through the non-verbal behavior cues, the person may be a bit distant and eye contact, not really maintaining eye contact. Yeah, so you'll be able to see whether the person actually is drawn to you or is actually not.
Okay.
So be sensitive to the non-verbal cues as well, the body language. Yeah.
Okay. So when I practice those things, you just now you said, don't say this, don't say that. I'm creating an atmosphere or a space for the person to respond, or a safe space, I guess, right? To draw out more from the individual.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Okay. Great. I think that is all. Let me just see before we go. That's all the questions that we have for now. Before we end, you talked about the breathing exercise.
Yes, the breathing exercise, yes.
Breathing exercise. Could you do that with us and everybody out there? Maybe, I don't know, walk us through what that looks like.
Okay.
What 1 or 2 cycles or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so at first I also intend to do the breathing exercise together with all of you. Okay, so what I want you to do is that you must be comfortable with where you are. Whether, the best is actually now you are sitting. So whether you are, for breathing exercise, it's good to be at the sitting position. Yeah. So when you are seated, okay, you can find a chair now to be seated on, and then I want you to just focus on my voice if you can. I can't see all of you, but I try lah, huh? So I want you to focus on my eyes, for my voice, and then I want you to close your eyes, seated very comfortably. Okay, first of all, I want you to be grounded. Grounded means your legs, your feet is on the ground. Yeah, and with eyes closed and focusing on my voice, I want you to feel your feet grounded on the ground. And then as it goes up to your thighs, it is grounded on the chair. And you feel that. And it goes up to your back, your spine resting on the chair. It is grounded on the chair. It's rested on the chair. Okay? And your hands rested on your legs in a very comfortable position. All right? With your eyes closed, I want you to take a breath in and out. And in and out. And in and out. The next is that when you take your breath in, I want you to hold it 5 seconds, right? And you take in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale slowly. All right? And again, inhale and hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale slowly. And one more time. Inhale, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale slowly. Okay? So I want you to keep on breathing in and out. In and out. And as count to 3, you can open up your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Slowly open your eyes. Okay? So this is a very short version of breathing exercise. Okay, so don't worry, it's not hypnotism. Okay, it's not. It's basically breathing, yeah, because we believe that, when our body it goes on a rhythm. Okay, because our fast pace and everything, our mind go haywire already. So let's take time to just breathe in and out. Okay, how do you feel with that? Do you feel relaxed?
Me, yes. Now I do just now. It's a little bit awkward. Like, yeah, I never realized that my feet is on the ground. That was weird. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's on the ground.
And
So
sometimes you don't realize that your back is also rested. So because of time, I cannot do a full exercise. So it's a very brief. You can actually go through that. Yeah. Okay. I hope that helps to relax. Yeah.
Okay. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Elaine.
You're welcome.
I'm just gonna share again the context for Irene, the Every Nation, counseling arm. So for everybody watching this, whether for yourself or for somebody else, this is the contact for our counseling arm of Every Nation Church Malaysia. That is Elaine's number there. You can both call her, WhatsApp her, or email her on that. And then, of course, you can also reach out to any of our pastors, Pastor Tim. If you have someone that is more in Chinese, Mandarin speaking, you have Pastor Joseph. If the person is an adult, maybe a father, a mother, this Pastor Stephen is there. If you're a working professional, maybe Eugene is one of our leaders. And then if you're a student, you can contact me. If you're a teen, you can call Jason. And if you have any kids, we have Pastor Agape as well. So those are some alternatives to what we have at Every Nation. And thank you so much, Elaine, for being
You're welcome.
here with us. You're such a blessing. I'm just going to share this short verse with everybody watching right now. It comes from Romans chapter 15, verse 1, and it says this: We then who are strong ought to bear with the weaknesses of those who are weak, and not to please ourselves. Let each one please his neighbor for his good, leading to edification. And in verse 3, it says, For even Christ did not please himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of those who reproach you fell on me. You know, this time that there's COVID-19, the scripture tells us those who are strong, if you are watching this, maybe you are in a stronger state. It tells us that, hey, look out for those who are weak. And in doing so, you are mimicking Jesus Christ. This is the Easter weekend. And when Jesus went to the cross, he was not looking out for himself. In fact, he was being selfless, and he was looking at the weaknesses of others. He took your sin and my sin on the cross with him. So in this season, thank you, Elaine, for mimicking Jesus on Christ's behalf. What you're doing is such a blessing to so many people, and we just trust that God is moving through you, in you, and God bless you and your family at this time. Thank you, students. Let's continue to go and make disciples. See you guys again. See you, Elaine.
Bye.
Okay.